Okay, now let's build our first API. So I'm going to right click the controllers folder, add a new C# class, and call it makes controller. Note that I use plural name for naming my controllers. Now, first we need to derive this class from the controller class. And in ASP.NET Core, we have only one controller class. In ASP.NET MVC5, we had two types of controllers. We had standard MVC controllers, which we use for returning views, and we also had API controllers. These controllers and their related classes were defined in two different namespaces. And we also had two route configurations, one for MVC controllers and the other for API controllers. Now in ASP.NET Core, both these two types of controllers are consolidated into one controller. So let's import the namespace here. You can see it's defined in Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.MVC. Now let's define an action. So public, I want to return the list of makes. So IEnumerable of make, get makes. Now let's import the namespace for IEnumerable and for the make. Now in the previous version of ASP.NET, we had this convention. So if you called your method get, the framework would assume this method is only accessible using HTTP GET. But this convention no longer applies in ASP.NET Core, and we need to explicitly apply an attribute here. So I'm going to add HTTP GET, and as the argument to this attribute, we need to specify what endpoint this action is for. So I want this action to respond to /API/makes. Now in this action, I want to return the list of makes and their models from the database. So I need our context. First, I'm going to define the constructor. So makes controller. Now here as a parameter, we should add Vega DB context. Let's bring the namespace. Call it context. Now I put the cursor on the parameter name, context, and press Command and period on Mac or Control and period on Windows. Unfortunately, this context menu is outside the recording window, but the first item is initialize field from parameter. So let's select that. So this automatically creates this private read-only field and initializes that using this argument in the constructor. Now here, I'm going to return context.makes.include m goes to m.models. Now here we need to import the namespace for this include method because it's an extension method. So once again, command and period using Microsoft.AnyFramework Core. And finally, to list. Note that the iQueryable interface defined in AnyFramework Core currently only exposes the toList async method, not the synchronous toList. So toList async. Now we need to await this and apply async here and change this to task of IEnumerable of make. Let's import the task. If you're not familiar with async and await, I've explained them in my C# advanced course on Udemy. So our action is ready. Now let's test it.